Hello everybody, nice to meet you. Our reading was we got Matthew chapter 21. Let's read it together. As they approached Jerusalem and came to Bethphage on the Mount of Olives, Jesus sent two disciples, saying to them, "Go to the village ahead of you, and at once you will find a donkey tied there, with their coat by her. Untie them and bring them to me. If anyone says anything to you, tell him what the Lord is them, and he will send them right away." This took place to fulfill what was spoken through the prophet. "Say to the daughter of Zion, see, your king comes to you, gentle and riding on a donkey, on a colt, on a foal-over donkey." The disciples went and did as Jesus had instructed them. They brought the donkey and the colt, placed their cloak on them, and Jesus sat on them. A very large crowd spread their cloak on their road, while others cut branches from the trees and spread them on the road. The crowds that went ahead of him and those that followed shouted, "Hosanna to the Son of David! Blessed he who comes in the name of the Lord! Hosanna in the highest!" When Jesus entered Jerusalem, the whole city was stirred and asked, "Who is this?" The crowds answered, "This is Jesus, the prophet from Nazareth in Galilee." Jesus entered the temple area and drove out all who were buying and selling there. The overturned devils of the money changers and the benches of those selling doves. It is written, he said to them, "My house will be called the house of prayer, but you are making it a den of robbers." The blind and the lame came to him at the temple, and he healed them. But when the chief priests and the teachers of the law saw the wonderful things he did, and the children shouting in the temple area, "Hosanna to the Son of David," they were indignant. "Do you hear what these children are saying?" they asked him. "Yes," replied Jesus. "Have you never read? From the lips of children and infants you have ordained phrase." And he left them and went out of the city of Bethany, where he spent the night. Early in the morning, as he was on his way back to the city, he was hungry. Seeing the fig tree by the road, he went up to it, but found nothing on it except leaves. Then he said to it, "May you ever bear fruits again." Immediately the tree withered. When the disciples saw this, they were amazed. "How did the fig tree wither so quickly?" they asked. Jesus replied, "I tell you the truth, if you have faith and do not doubt, not only can you do what was done to fig tree, but also you can say to this mount, 'Go through yourself into the sea,' and it will be done. If you believe, you will receive whatever you ask for in prayer." Jesus entered the temple courts, and while he was teaching, the chief priests and the elders of the people came to him. "By what authority are you doing these things?" they asked. "And who gave you this authority?" Jesus replied, "I will also ask you one question. You answer me, I will tell you by what authority I am doing these things." John's baptism, where did it come from? Was it from heaven or from man? They discussed it among themselves and said, "If we say from heaven," he will ask, "then why don't you believe him? But if we say from man, we are afraid of the people, for they all hold that John was a prophet. So they answered Jesus, I don't know. Then he said, little will I tell you by what authority I am doing these things. What do you think? There was a man who had 2 sons. He went to the first and said, son, go and work today in the vineyard. I will not, he answered, but later he changed his mind and went. Then the father went to the other sons and said to the same things. He answered, I will serve, but he did not go. Which of the 2 did what his father wanted? The first, they answered. Jesus said to them, I tell you the truth. The tax collectors and the prostitutes are entering the kingdom of God ahead of you. For John came to you to show you the way of righteousness, and you did not believe him, but the tax collectors and the prostitutes did. And even after you saw this, you did not repent and believe him. Listen to another parable. There was a landowner who planted a vineyard. He put a wall around it, dug a vine press in it, and built a watchtower. Then he rented the vineyard to some farmers and went away on a journey. When the harvest time approached, he sent his servant to the tenant to collect his fruits. The tenant seized his servant. They beat one, killed another, and stoned the third. Then he sent another servant to them, more than the first time, and the tenant treated them the same way. Last of all, he sent his son to them. They will respect my son, he said. But when the tenant saw the son, they said to each other, this is the heir. Come, let's kill him and take his inheritance. So they took him and threw him out of the vineyard and killed him. Therefore, when the owner of the vineyard comes, what will he do those tenants? He will bring those wretches to the wretched end. They replied, and he will rent the vineyard to other tenant, who will give him his share of the crop at harvest time. Jesus said to them, have you never read in the scriptures? The stone was builders rejected has become a capstone. The Lord has done this, and it is marvelous in our eyes. Therefore, I tell you that the kingdom of God will be taken away from you and given to the people who will produce its fruits. He who falls on this stone will be broken to pieces, but he on whom it falls will be crushed. When the chief priests and the Pharisees heard Jesus' parables, they knew that was talking about them. They looked for a way to arrest him, but they were afraid of the crowd because of the people held that he was a prophet. Matthew chapter 21, verses 1 through 46. Thank you.